Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for coming today. I'm going to give you a little bit of run of show so you know who everybody is, and we have a few speakers today. I'm Sue Kemp. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a longtime friend of Elizabeth's. So we're going to have the first speaker is Chuck Love. Chuck is Elizabeth's brother, and followed by Cody Engel. So we have 4 mini eulogies in one poem. The next speaker will be Tim Pearson, who is Elizabeth's former husband, his good friend, followed by Renee Hinchy, and then I'll do a wrap-up. And following the wrap-up, if we have time, we're in kind of a tight time schedule because another event's coming in here. We'll leave some time for people to come up to the microphone if they'd like to say a few words. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Chuck Love.
Can you hear me? Yes. Outstanding. In case you're wondering, I talk like I'm in the Army, so I hope I'm not too abrasive. But I'm here to talk a little bit about our growing up. And it was a fun time. We didn't grow up rich, we were kind of poor, because my father was in the Army and he raised 4 kids on a salary somewhere between $500 and $700 a month. So, but we did okay. You know, we always had clothes to wear and shoes to wear. Got clothes and shoes once a year, every time at the beginning of the school year, and that's great. But there's a lot of things that she did for me. She was my best friend when we were younger. And one time I remember we were walking down the street, and I was going over to one of her friend's house, and I said, I want to meet some girls. She said, well, not like that. You got to pull your shirt out of your pants. You got to unbutton the top buttons of your shirt. Let me see your fingernails. No, you can't have dirty fingernails. So I kind of threw that idea under the bus and walked away. Then we were supposed to take care of our little sister, Tracy. And we were only like 6 or 7 years old ourselves. So my mom and dad, they took off to go somewhere, and they said, you guys watch your little sister. Don't let nothing happen. I said, yeah, okay, no problem. So as soon as they left, so did we. We went outside, came back. They had taken my little sister to the hospital because she ate an ashtray full of cigarette butts. That was not a good night for us, trust me. Then one time it was Halloween, and Elizabeth decided I was going to be a woman. So she dressed me up in girls' clothes, put lipstick and eye makeup and stuff like that on me. I went out and got some candy. It worked. And sometimes we used to, we'd have dinner with the family sometimes, not often, but sometimes. And my mother just happened to be the world's worst cook. God rest her soul. And one time she made some turkey dressing for us. So what Elizabeth and I did was I took the turkey dressing and put it in my tennis shoes. And Elizabeth put it in her underwear. And we said, y'all fixed? Yeah, we're done. It's good too, thanks, Mom. So then we left, finished dinner. Bunny went and changed her clothes and underwear and stuff. I forgot about it, went outside, started playing with turkey dressing in my tennis shoes. Found it about, 2 weeks later. That wasn't fun either. And then one time I told her when I was a junior high school, I wanted to ask this girl, to go steady with me. So she went out and bought a ring for me to give to her. So I took the ring, and I found the girl in the hallway, and I threw it at her because I didn't know how to ask her. And that's the last time I talked to her. So. And finally, some of our funnest times were at Christmas. My parents always found a way to give us a Christmas. It wasn't much, it was good. And Elizabeth and I would spend hours Christmas Eve looking for the presents that our dad bought for us. And we could never find them. And it was so frustrating. And we'd wake up to 3, 4 o'clock in the morning looking for presents, never did find them. I don't know what he did with them. But we'd wake up and the presents were there. And the last thing I really want to say is she was my best friend when I was growing up. She was my sister, and I love her.
Yes. I'm Cody Engel. Elizabeth called me her godfather. And before Elizabeth and I became friends, she was my employee. Some of you may have heard of Buddy Love. This was Elizabeth's name 52 years ago when we met. Buddy was a leasing consultant at the Sandy Cove Apartments in Orlando, one of a group of distressed properties that my company had acquired. Buddy was 21, recently divorced, and trying to decide if she should use her former husband's name, Johnson, or stick with Love. Buddy Love, Buddy Johnson. She chose Johnson. Petite, cute, blonde, with a hint of Southern charm. Buddy was a bundle of energy, and she was in charge. Buddy promptly suggested better ways to market the distressed properties. She was so successful in turning Sandy Cove around that she was promoted to a 370-unit distressed property in Charlotte, North Carolina. The property was named the lake for a man-made pond out front. Buddy quickly and creatively developed a full range of resident activities which successfully attracted renters. She created what would be the highlight of the year, the canoe joust, where competitors attempted to knock each other off the front of a canoe using jousting sticks. With Buddy's charm, persistence, and determination, the lake became the place to live in Charlotte. Buddy was such a success that she was next promoted to a newly acquired 1,000-unit mixed-use property in downtown Cleveland. Both Cleveland and the property were a mess. At that time, the property was FHA's largest mortgage default at $35 million, and the mayor had recently, Dennis Kucinich, had mooed the public through the window of a bus. Buddy went to work with a brilliant marketing effort and helped turn the property into a success, proving once again that her talent to create and execute positive change was remarkable. At the same time, she became friends with the city's up-and-coming young leaders, earned her BA, learned to play the piano, and met her future husband, Tim Pearson. After 3 years in Cleveland, in 1982, Buddy left and joined Tim, who'd taken a job in Orange County and lived in Laguna Beach. A couple years later, I had the honor of walking Buddy down the aisle, and she became Elizabeth Pearson. The fact that I no longer worked with Elizabeth did not end her efforts to help guide me to the right conclusions. This is something Elizabeth excelled at. You don't really know how you got to where she knew you needed to be. It just seemed to happen. My daughter told me I must staple my speech together. A personal example of Elizabeth's guiding me was in 2000, after my divorce. I was at a loss as to how to proceed. Elizabeth instructed me to sign up on matchmaker.com. And now I'm a fan. 1 month later, I met Deborah, and we've been happily married for 23 years. Thank you, Elizabeth. But wait, there's more. In 2007, Deborah and I traveled to California and spent a few days with Elizabeth in Laguna Beach. Elizabeth had to work during the day, so she suggested that we look at houses. My wife loves to look at houses. We had no plan to buy a house, but Greg Vail took us around town and we saw the usual range of Laguna's unique design solutions. At the end of the day, we told Elizabeth that we had fun, but there was nothing very interesting. Unacceptable was what was her response. She called Greg, told him that she was going with us the next day, and he was to pick us up at 10. At the third house, Elizabeth walked into the front patio and announced, "I can hold fundraisers here." So we bought it. Elizabeth had done it again. And by the way, both Sue and Alex launched their first console campaigns on the patio and won. And Katrina Foley also did a fundraiser there. So if you're thinking of running for politics, check out our patio. What started as a seasonal home became a full-time residence as Elizabeth drew Deborah and me into the community. Once again, Elizabeth had successfully accomplished what she set out to do, and of course, we were delighted. Elizabeth's ability to get things done while being admired and loved was a very special quality. She was whip smart, but never flaunted it. She knew how to make things happen. One wonders if she did have some special power. The question came to mind for me the other day. When I eat Chinese food and get a fortune cookie, I ask the cookie a question. A few days ago, I asked the cookie that came after dinner, will we have a good turnout for Elizabeth's celebration of life? And the cookie said, many will travel to hear you speak. So maybe Elizabeth did have some power beyond our understanding. Elizabeth, we will miss you, but we will never forget you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tim Pearson. I've been asked to make a reading today of a poem called Will You Be My Friend? Will You Be My Friend by James Cavanaugh. It's dedicated to Sue Kemp and all the angels who helped support her when she was ill. It was Elizabeth's favorite poem, and I read it to her for the first time over 40 years ago. Will you be my friend? Will you be my friend? There are so many reasons why you never should. I'm sometimes sullen, often shy, acutely sensitive. My fears erupt as anger. I'm hard to give. I talk about myself when I'm afraid, and often spend the day without saying anything. But I will make you laugh and love you quite a bit and hold you when you're sad. I cry a little almost every day because I am more caring than the strangers ever know. And if at times I show my tender side, the softer and warmer side I hide. I wonder, will you be my friend? A friend who, far beyond the feebleness of any vow or tie, will touch the secret place where I am really I. To know the pain of lips that plead and eyes that weep, who will not run away when you find me in the street, alone and lying mangled by my quota of defeats, but will stop and say, to tell me of another day when I was beautiful. Will you be my friend? There are so many reasons why you never should. Often I'm too serious, seldom predictably the same, sometimes cold and distant. Probably I'll always change. I bluster and brag, seek attention like a child. I brood and pout. My anger can be wild. But I will make you laugh and love you quite a bit. And be near when you're afraid. I shake a little almost every day because I am more frightened than the strangers ever know. And if at times I show my trembling side, the anxious, fearful part I hide, I wonder, will you be my friend? A friend who, when I fear your closeness, feels me push away, and stubbornly will stay to share what's left on such a day. Who, when no one knows my name or calls me on the phone, when there's no concern for me, what I have or haven't done, and those I've helped and counted on have so deftly run. But when there's nothing left for me, stripped of charm and subtlety, will nonetheless remain. Will you be my friend? For no reason that I know, except I want you so.
Well, that was a hard act to follow. Anyone who knew Elizabeth Pearson will remember her dedication to the community was truly inspiring. She was small in stature, but she was larger than life. Born into a military family on January 1st, 1952, Elizabeth's family moved many times from Fort Bennington, Georgia, to Japan, Germany, the East Coast, and Orlando, Florida. After graduating from high school, she started work as a secretary. It was her first job. Her people skills led her to her next job for the first property at Sand Cove Apartments in Orlando, and where she met her mentor and godfather, Cody Ingalls. And under Cody's guidance, she rose to the ranks to become the director of marketing. So she's always good at anything she's ever done. And all of us who know her know that she was capable of many, many things. She became a leasing agent, and Cody mentioned this, for a 1,000-unit property in Charlotte, South Carolina, as well as a multi-unit property in Jacksonville, Florida, and also a high-rise in Cleveland, Ohio. While in Cleveland, Elizabeth earned a college degree at what is now called Baldwin Wallace University. Elizabeth eventually moved to Laguna Beach and dedicated herself to city service, as we all know. She spent 6 years as a volunteer on the Planning Commission here and another 12 years on City Council, and that included 3 stints as mayor. Her commitment to Laguna Beach residents was unwavering. Among her monumental achievements were the negotiations that led to the development of the Montage Resort, her meeting with Dianne Feinstein to seek funds for the rebuilding of the neighborhood after the Bluebird landslide, her persistence in helping Bluebird residents finding temporary housing, and her many, many other accomplishments that most of us know about. From her days as a volunteer for the Senior Center, when it was located in the basement of VFW, she championed and raised tens of thousands of dollars, along with the Quilter family and the city of Laguna Beach, for the construction of the Susie Q Center, and she was so very proud of that. I mean, she always talked about it, she always kept up with what's going on there, and she was a great lover of seniors. She was also not honored as the Newsmaker of the Year, which anybody that knows her knows how true that could be. And that was, at that point in time, that was after the Bluebird mudslide and her part in everything that she did for that. She really had an interest in the lives of others and touched the hearts of many with her willingness to always lend a hand. She spent most of her professional career in marketing and funding, including posts with Mission Hospital, Laguna Playhouse, and the Pacific Corral. Most recently, she was a consultant to homeowners who were wanting to have AD units built. She always knew how to make me laugh. The night before she passed, I was over there, and she gave me a box of things to take home that she wanted me to have. And so I was so curious, I had opened that box that evening, and at the very bottom of the box was the most unique gift I had ever received, a tongue scraper. So she certainly got the last laugh on me, that's for sure. I mean, she was always smart enough to find a better way, dedicated enough to make it happen. She had the leadership skills of a general and the brain power of a NASA engineer. So I think I know someone out there in the audience that used to call her the general. So I know that has meaning for him. At last, Elizabeth was a fighter. She was a true fighter. She fought the repercussions of cancer, and she hung on like a champion. The last few years were really tough, and it was really hard seeing her go through what she went through, and she just kept at it. Her passing has left a void in the hearts of her family and the Laguna Beach community. Her legacy will continue to remind us of the profound impact that one dedicated individual can make. Finally, free from pain, sleep peacefully, Elizabeth. That was vodka.
I know Elizabeth would be so honored that we had so many people turn out for her today. And so you may not be surprised that she was quite prescriptive about her memorial, in general. And I thought I would share with you a few of her requests. One is she wanted everyone to have fun. She didn't want anything to be maudlin. We should have beer, wine, and other non-alcoholic drinks, hence one of the reasons that we asked everyone to join us after the event at the lumberyard, which she called the Lumberjack, because she was always prospecting. She wants everyone to know that friends are her family, so Angie made the bookmark that's on your seat for all of you. She also wanted the phrase to be repeated in her memorial. She wanted Tim Pearson to read the poem. She adored Tim. She wanted us to play Rufus Wainwright's version of Hallelujah, which we did as you came in. She wanted us to make a video, which Chris Thalman did such a nice job, and you maybe saw the montage as you were a video when you came in. She wants Motown music to be played, and we also added yellow flowers, as that was her favorite color. Elizabeth often reminded us of who were particularly close to her, that friends are her family, and she treated us like family. We celebrated birthdays, we spent many Easters and other holidays together, participated in her various fundraising efforts, and just generally followed her around town. She pulled people into her world, she checked on us, she worried about us, and she valued us. We also got in trouble periodically, and we were often the beneficiaries of unsolicited advice. For example, I was sitting next to her bed in her final days, and she whispered to me that she wanted to tell me something. And I got that kind of emotional pit of the stomach feeling, and I leaned into her, and she said, "You need to put on a little color on your cheeks, some mascara, and wear lip gloss." By the way, it's not the first time I've heard this, but... And then she added, "And you need to dress better for council." She told Renee one time that she shouldn't wear plaid, otherwise people would confuse her with a lesbian. Those of us who have talked with her on the phone frequently, and Dave and Steve are here, they were so great to come from Florida. That would have meant the world to her, Dave and Steve. But Dave and I used to talk about this all the time, but she had questionable phone etiquette. So when she was done talking, she'd just hang up. And if you were in public, you didn't want to make it look like the other side of the conversation hung up on you, so you have to make something up like, "Okay, nice talking to you, see you again." Elizabeth was a Republican, so if you went out for drinks with her, one of her favorite things to do, this is pre-cancer, is you had to have Rombauer, French fries, and pulled pork, no bun. If you'd ordered anything remotely healthy, she called that Democrat food. And if she didn't care for your shoes, those were Democrat shoes. So when she got sick in 2019, all of her friends instinctively rallied around her, and I want everyone to know that she was extremely brave in the face of a very difficult diagnosis, treatment, and recovery. She also wanted you to know that she succumbed to the consequences of radiation, but she beat her cancer against very, very slim odds. And I was thinking about listing all of her friends that had helped her during her illness, because I was sure to miss someone, and I just felt bad if I would leave someone out. But I do want to highlight two people, and that's Cody and Deb. Two incredible humans who were steadfast friends, family really, for decades, and who supported Elizabeth in all of her endeavors throughout her illness and abbreviated recovery. Those of us serving on council know well how difficult it is to achieve big things. She loved this town, lived here for over 40 years, and it showed through her vision and dedication to Laguna. She really knew how to get things done. Hard things, like our wonderful Susie Q, securing a ton of money for the Bluebird slide. She was also a prolific fundraiser, a relentless arm twister, a juggernaut, sometimes terrifying. She would want me to say that in particular she loved Kelly Boyd, Cheryl Kinsman, and Ken Frank, all who had permanent friend and family status. Bob Chapman, I don't know if he's here today, but he served on the planning commission with her for 6 years, and along with Ann Johnson, and he told me I had to sit between those two. I can't tell you how many pieces of advice I got in those 6 years. We also remember her Sacred Sunday policy. When she was on council, this had nothing to do with religion. She wasn't religious really at all. Her Sacred Sunday meant that she wouldn't take any calls. She'd wear her pajamas all day and read. And she was very well read. Elizabeth leaves us all her gift, a lasting legacy of friendship and family, a deep love for her beloved Laguna, and a remarkable and indelible contribution of service. In her very last days, Chris Thalman asked her, after she passed, how would she know where she went? Elizabeth brightened up and said, "Your smoke detector." And Chris said, "Oh, I haven't changed the batteries in years." Elizabeth said, the general, "Change the batteries." So Chris has done that, and now she waits.
I'm in charge now. She whispers that I'm in charge now. Okay, we have a limitation on how long we can be here because there's an event coming up and we've got a lot of food. So we're going to take, for a few minutes, comments. Some people who want to say something, please maybe line up over here, but we don't want to make it too city council, but I know June wants to say something, so why don't you?
I'm June Strader, and I live in Rockingham County, North Carolina, which is where I'm so shocked. He called her Bunny. That's all we ever knew her as was Bunny. The first time I came to Laguna to visit her, she said, "Now don't call me Bunny." She said, "You have to call me Elizabeth." Chuck, you remember that? Yeah, you can't call me Bunny. Well, she was Bunny. All the family back home, her dad, my mother's brother, nicknamed her Bunny when she was born, and that's all the family ever knew. I was probably grown and in college before I knew her name was Elizabeth. But anyway, she does have a very large, extended, close family back in North Carolina. My mother is the oldest of the 8 children. Elizabeth's biological father was the next oldest, and he still is living in Tennessee. Of course, with 8 children, they scattered to the winds. All the boys wanted to join the army to get off the farm. So anyway, my mother was like a second mom to Elizabeth. And she passed away August 19th, and Bunny left us just 5 weeks later, so I've had a rough time. But when she would come to our house, she had her own room, she decorated it, she had her private bath upstairs, and she said, "This is my sanctuary out here on the farm." She would go for long walks and just enjoy looking at the cows. So the side of Elizabeth that you all know and loved and nurtured and cared for, I was the family side. And my extended family. And when she would come to visit, all the brothers and sisters and cousins and aunts and uncles who could get there were there. And we had these big family gatherings at her favorite restaurant. And of all things, she wanted a hot dog. I love her dearly. She was close as a sister to me. And I will forever miss her. Thank you.
Well, Christmas coming up. As you may notice, this is being professionally videotaped or videoed, and it'll be on YouTube probably in the next 2 weeks.
And this isn't even my good side. It is so gratifying to hear someone described by her family roots, by her local roots, and we all know her.
Yes.
We all know who we're talking about, whether she's Bunny or Elizabeth. She's a dear friend. Now, like a lot of us in the room, my friendship with Elizabeth was built around getting stuff done in the community. And our big adventure was the senior center. And it's just a simple fact that the Susie Q would never have happened without her. She was indeed the general. And possibly her faithful sidekick was Ken Frank, who probably couldn't say no to her, but who could? You know, it was a very difficult thing to do. But her passion for older people, I believe, started when she was a kid. There was some alchemy going on there, and she brought it to our hometown, and we needed a senior center, and we didn't have one, and that was all she needed to hear. So if she wanted something to happen, and Cody, you just described this perfectly, she knew how to make it happen. She knew how to get the people together. And it didn't make her the lowest maintenance friend that we ever had. That's quite true, but it made her one of the more interesting ones and one of the more fun ones to get in harness with. That's basically the message my sister-in-law, Ann, wanted to send us today because she had an obligation she couldn't break. I followed Ann onto the board of Laguna Beach Seniors, and at the time Elizabeth stepped down because she was elected to the council. She couldn't be active with the community. She couldn't run the capital campaign. So she passed the baton to Ann, who basically discovered that she was getting the baton when Elizabeth announced it to the community, which is very Elizabeth and Elizabeth. But what Ann wanted to add was that she said, I had no idea what to do, but she saw something in me that I didn't know about until I ended up doing what she instructed me to do. So it's a wonderful Elizabeth story. And in 2005, she sold me her cottage, which she had outgrown because she was hyphenated back then. I may have butched it up a bit, but it's been our shared home ever since. And I think of her every day. So here's love to Elizabeth.
Anybody else would like to chat?
That's all right. Hi, I'm Cindy Pruitt. I was Laguna Beach Live. We are now about to celebrate our 25th year, and all that we do, we owe a lot to Elizabeth. Not only did she help us as ex officio city council when we got started, she got most of the people on my board twisted their arms to be on it. She was all about music in the community, not just the seniors, but to do a lot of stuff for the kids in the schools. So when we're around all and you hear Laguna Beach Live, please know Elizabeth's with us.
Elizabeth and I worked together a lot, and we agreed a lot. That wasn't seen in the public often, but it was true. And there's something that you can use as a reminder of Elizabeth. When the Susie Q was done, the Arts Commission had art to put along with the building. It was an expensive building. And so they were going to put this piece of art at the bottom of the hill where the 3rd Street Hill is, where you come down the 3rd Street Hill. Well, what they had was something magnificent, a breaching whale. And I knew if I were coming down the 3rd Street Hill, I want to look at it. And she agreed. And so what happened, we got that whale in Heisler Park. And I think there's somebody from the Arts Commission that's still mad at me, but we got it. And the artist came up at the day of the dedication and he said, I was really hurt when you moved this because I didn't know why. And now that it's here, I want to thank you. Because if you stand at the right place, you can look at it and it looks like it's in the ocean. So go to Heisler Park, and if you want to think of Elizabeth, look for that whale.
Before my wife wants to speak, because she loved Elizabeth, but before she does, I wanted to tell you the last few months of her life, my wife is the one that was with her 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, feeding her, bathing her, clothing her, everything. Any kind of medication, everything. She was an angel. She was an angel. I just wanted y'all to know that.
I will try to speak English the best I can because she said I don't speak her language, but I will try. Okay, my name is Maria Love, and I will appreciate you, everybody appreciated for you being in her life. And thank you. And thank you, Elizabeth, for giving me a chance to be with you the last 4 months, or 4 months and a half. And you be my boss, and I'll be your angel. So, 3 weeks before she died, she gave me the orders to wear something yellow, for sure, because it's her favorite color. So, okay, I did that. But also I'm learning a lot about her. I'm learning to be strong in life. And to anything I want in my life, I need to be stand up and go for it. So God bless you, everybody, and thank you, Elizabeth, to come in my life. Thank you, everybody.
Hi there, I'm Jerry Curtin. Many of you don't know me, but I've lived here for 25 years, happily with Dan Hasper, and I have not had the privilege of knowing Elizabeth as long as you all have. But what I do know is for the time that we spent together, she was so intelligent, funny, and kind. She was also a force of nature. And coming from a family of petite women, you do not mess with petite women. And so whenever we were at a Women Beach Live function or something, and there was music to dance by, her hand would come out. And she would say, we're dancing. And I would say, well, I have 2 left feet, so no. And she said, we're dancing. She was the only person ever, before, since, and in the future, who could ever make me dance. And I think that magnetism and power and joy and determination and intelligence was so much of what she was. And we're all the luckier for having known her for however long we've known her. So rest well, Elizabeth. We'll see you, and we're going to dance again sometime soon.
Yes or no?
Hi, I'm Chris Ballman. I had the joy of putting the boards and the video together, and it was balling. It brought back a lot of memories. I met Elizabeth about 20 years ago when I first moved to Laguna Beach. God, I don't cry. And so she went, her name at that time was Elizabeth Schneider. And she wanted to meet me for lunch. I was with the building industry at the time. And this was right after the Bluebird slide. She wanted to come speak to my board about getting help from builders about building up Bluebird Canyon after a horrible mudslide. And so she said, let's meet for lunch at Pistango's. And she picked the place and time and date and said, hey, I'll be there. And her husband, Ernie Schneider at the time, was on my board and was one of my board members. And so I was sure to abide and meet with Elizabeth. So we go to lunch, and she said, so where do you live? I said, well, I just moved to Laguna back in March, and this was, I think, June, July. And she said, well, are you single? And I said, yes, well, I'm widowed. And she says, I know a lot of men. Don't worry, I know a lot of men. You won't have any trouble. And from that day on, she was always an angel to me. She's the one who really pushed, I think, Michael Kinsman and Chris Keller and others on the board at the chamber. You need to hire Chris Ballman. She's just retiring from the building industry, so they obliged, I guess. And again, she was an angel in every way. Renee and I spent a lot of time with her on trips, either to the desert or my mountain cabin. And she set the schedule. When she wanted to go home, she was ready to go home. She had her suitcase packed, and we were in our pajamas, and she was ready to go. I have so many stories about Elizabeth. Some I can say in public, but I'm better for knowing her. She made a huge difference in my life. And rest in peace, Elizabeth.
Keep it short, we gotta end.
It's real short. Maybe Roger Kemper on Rec Committee History Board. Maybe Elizabeth's last public effort, and underscore the fact that she was always working for the community and for others, was leading a plaque recognition program for individuals that parks are named after. Elizabeth did the monumental task of getting a park for Ken Frank secured, and we, the Rec Committee, asked her to come make a presentation on Ken, and then she helped very briefly, effectively, and efficiently put together a very nice plaque for Ken Frank, and he was very appreciative. I don't think he's here, but oh, Ken, okay, that's Ken. I just wanted to point that out, and maybe there's some space for Elizabeth somewhere in an appropriate place. I know she's recognized at Susan Q, and also at the Montage with a group of council people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Thank you to Sue and Chris and Angie and Renee for putting this together. My wife never forgets a name, I never remember one. I'm going to invite you, we've got a lot of food, put it away, and any of the framed pictures, any pictures up here, if you want them, take them. And so, pardon? And yes, and we are going to adjourn to the lumberyard for further festivities at your pleasure. And I think that, Sue, do I have permission to end? I'm in charge now? Thank you for being here.